Today we're diving into a topic that's as nostalgic as it gets, the top 6 games with the best graphics for the Atari Jaguar console. While the Jaguar might not have been the biggest commercial success when it was released back in the 90s, there's no denying it produced some memorable games with killer visuals for its time.
Can you repeat the question? Jaguar!
The Atari Jaguar was released in the US in November of 1993 and featured a unique systems architecture that was way ahead of its competitors at the time. It combined 5 different processors on board 3 separate chips, giving it advanced graphics rendering and sound capabilities. In addition to having a Motorola 68000 CPU like the Sega Genesis, it also came with all guns blazing, offering custom graphics hardware in the form of dual 32-bit co-processors. These chips worked in tandem with one affectionately known as Tom, a GPU that was designated to handle both 2D sprites and 3D graphics, that was accompanied by Jerry, a digital signal processor that's responsible for handling audio and some video processing tasks. The powerhouse combo of these complementary chips allowed the Jaguar to render high-quality visuals at impressive speeds for its time. That was also able to produce some pretty impressive music and crystal clear sound effects due to its 16-bit stereo CD quality sound. The graphics processor also featured an onboard blitter chip, which played a key role in accelerating graphics and improving the performance of 2D and 3D rendering. The blitter was a dedicated hardware component designed to handle the transfer and manipulation of image data, specifically for drawing pixels, bitmaps, and textures. It was also one of the first systems to support advanced features like alpha blending and transparency effects, which contributed to more realistic graphics. These combined features equipped the Jaguar with the ability to handle complex 3D graphics, something that was not yet commonplace in other home consoles. However, the Jaguar's complex hardware architecture also presented significant challenges to game programming. The system's complexity and multi-chip architecture was difficult to program for, and some developers struggled to unlock the full potential of the hardware. Despite those challenges, the games I'll show you today showcase the Jaguar's capabilities and provide a great illustration of the console's power in its day. It's important to remember that the Jaguar was released in the United States way back in 1993, a full year before the Sega Saturn was released in '94, and almost 2 years before the PlayStation came out in 1995. So let's be sure to keep this in mind to ensure that we have an accurate point of reference and context. With that being said, let's take a closer look at 6 standout games that got the most out of the hardware in this Retro Gaming Boss retrospective of the best graphics on the Atari Jaguar. So let's begin with viewing Rayman, a game that's not only charming, but is visually stunning even to this day. The hand-drawn character animations are fluid, and the environments are filled with vibrant colors and detailed backgrounds. The platforming is tight, but it's the beautiful art style and creative character designs that make this one shine on the Atari Jaguar. Rayman's world is magical, and it really stands out as one of the most visually striking platformers of the 90s. I'm gonna let the graphics in this game speak for themselves. Enjoy the following Jaguar eye candy. Next, we enter into the web in the brilliant Tempest 2000. This absolute masterpiece from Jeff Minter was released in 1994. Its psychedelic and trippy visuals were a perfect backdrop for the fast-paced arcade-style action. This game seamlessly demonstrates several of the Atari Jaguar's graphics rendering capabilities in a way that was so fun to experience. The colorful graphics, transparencies, and intense particle effects really bring this one to life and make the gameplay pop on the screen. It's a psychedelic head rush, hard to match, even by today's standards. Tempest 2000 used a form of vector graphics with Garo shading that allowed for smooth, real-time rotations and scaling of geometric shapes, creating a vibrant and surreal visual experience. The game's dynamic environments with its swirling neon colors exploited the Jaguar's hardware to deliver a visually captivating experience that was far ahead of its time. In addition to the hardware advantages of the Jaguar, the software optimizations in Tempest 2000 played a crucial role in achieving its visual excellence. The game's engine was specifically designed to take full advantage of the Jaguar's parallel processing, allowing it to handle multiple layers of visual effects without compromising performance. Special effects like lighting, color gradients, and the movement of enemies and projectiles were handled in real time, creating a truly dynamic and immersive experience. Coupled with a driving electronic soundtrack, the game's visuals were not only technically advanced, but also deeply integrated into the gameplay, producing a sensory experience that combined sight and sound in a way that had never been seen before in the gaming industry. Kudos and thank you to Jeff Minter and Atari for bringing this masterpiece into existence for us retro gamers to cherish. Our next title is the popular Alien vs. Predator. This one takes the visuals to a whole other level. The dark, atmospheric environments are enhanced by detailed textures, shadows, and creepy lighting that made it one of the best-looking games on the Jaguar. Whether you're stalking your prey as an alien, battling as a predator, or fighting them all in a battle royal for survival as the lone colonial marine, the sense of dread and immersion created by the graphics is second to none. The alien-infested halls and the intense combat make every moment feel like a survival horror masterpiece. The game took full advantage of the console's custom processors to deliver detailed environments and featured digitized character models. The hardware allowed for realistic motion and fluid animations of the creatures, adding to the sense of tension and danger. Compare that with the cartoony, animation-style pixel graphics seen in Doom that was released on the PC not much earlier, and you can see how the Jaguar's capabilities were crucial for creating the claustrophobic, atmospheric feel of the alien-infested setting. The Jaguar's advanced graphical effects were particularly important in the game's Predator campaign, with its cloaking technology and thermal vision adding a previously unseen layer in the gameplay experience. Let's see more of what makes this game so great. Next up is Super Burnout. If you're into racing games, this one will really get your adrenaline pumping. The game features some of the smoothest and high-speed racing visuals for the time, with huge and detailed sprites and slick environments that make you feel like you're right there on the track. The sense of breakneck speed is incredible due to the sharp, vibrant, and fluid graphics. It's a high-speed thrill ride that really shows off the Jaguar's 2D rendering power. The Jaguar's custom graphics chips, particularly the TOM chip, excelled at handling fast and detailed 2D sprite-based graphics. Super Burnout featured beautifully rendered motorcycles and the rush of the environment speeding by, while all maintaining a consistent and smooth frame rate even during high-speed races. One of the key advancements that made Super Burnout a visual standout was the implementation of dynamic, parallax scrolling, which created a sense of depth and immersion as players raced through the multiple layers of scenery. The game's backgrounds, such as roads and landscapes, would scroll at different speeds depending on the position in the scene, making the environment feel three-dimensional. While parallax scrolling was nothing new at the time, this game took it to new heights, with tons of huge super-scaling sprites, more detailed layers of background imagery that were really impressive. I mean, just look at that moon! All of these elements, combined with fast, responsive gameplay, showcase the Jaguar's potential for delivering visually impressive and high-performance 2D racing games, cementing Super Burnout as one of the most visually striking racing games of the early 90s.
Best time. 3 laps to go.
And coming in at number 5 is Iron Soldier. This one's for all you mech fans. You pilot a massive war robot stomping around in 3D cities that featured for the first time that I'm aware of with destructible environments. The graphics, while seemingly simple by today's standards, were in fact highly advanced at the time, offering players the ability to strap into a giant stompy robot and navigate a fully rendered 3D open-world environment. The visuals in Iron Soldier for the Atari Jaguar were special due to their pioneering use of 3D polygon graphics to render large-scale environments and enemies in real time, which was a significant leap forward for console gaming. You have to remember, at the same time, the Super Nintendo and Genesis were still in their heydays of 2D side-scrolling platformers. The open-world gameplay of Iron Soldier was another key feature that set the game apart. Players could freely navigate large, destructible 3D environments, including cities and military bases. The Jaguar's hardware rendered these environments featuring massive skyscrapers, various buildings and vehicles that could all be interacted with in real time. The ability to destroy objects added a layer of depth and immersion that was unprecedented in many consoles of that era. The sense of power you felt while smashing an entire city block into thousands of tumbling chunks of debris and the explosions it caused was incredible. Even today, when you turn up the volume and have a full-on smashing spree, it's pretty cool watching the carnage explode around you. Let's see some more giant robot goodness. Our sixth and final entry is the standout port of the original Doom. The Jaguar's powerful chipset was a significant upgrade from other consoles of the era, and its hardware had the capability to render higher resolution textures and more detailed environments, which enhanced the overall visual fidelity of Doom. The Jaguar's advanced blitter chip really helped power the game's smoother performance and rendering speed compared to the other systems that struggled, especially with the more complex visual environments. The Jaguar's hardware-based scaling and rotation of sprites was also a technique that was especially helpful in making the gameplay feel more responsive and less choppy than the other platforms. When you compare Doom on the Jaguar to the 16-bit port on the Super Nintendo, the difference is night and day. The Jaguar port also benefited from a modified version of the Doom engine, optimizing it to run smoothly with more sophisticated visual effects than earlier ports. This included fine-tuning to accommodate the limited amount of RAM in the Jaguar, and also to boost the parallel processing to provide a more smooth and stable frame rate. With this combination of cutting-edge hardware and software enhancements, the Atari Jaguar version of Doom pushed the boundaries of the console graphics at its time, delivering a crisp and more refined, all-around, more technically impressive experience. Let's see some more for your retro enjoyment. Before we wrap things up, let's take a look at an honorable mention that didn't make the list, but still deserves some recognition for its fantastic graphics. Our runner-up has to be the remarkable adaptation of the arcade shoot-'em-up, Raiden. This game packed a huge punch with detailed, colorful graphics and intense gameplay, with smooth scrolling and tons of sprites on screen at any time. The visual effects, explosions, and chaotic projectile patterns are a real treat for the eyes, making it one of the more polished shoot-'em-ups available for any home console at the time. The game's vertical scrolling style benefited from the Jaguar's ability to handle large numbers of on-screen objects such as enemy ships, projectiles, and explosions without slowdown. The result was a visually stunning experience with vibrant, detailed sprite art that made each level visually engaging and a joy to play through. Raiden's advanced visual effects, such as multiple background layers and parallax scrolling, further enhanced the gameplay experience. Additionally, the game utilized vibrant explosions, particle effects, and a variety of color gradients that were rendered by the console's graphical power, creating a visually striking scene during intense battles. Let's check it out. And there you have it, folks, the top 6 games with the best graphics for the Atari Jaguar, plus an honorable mention. What do you think? Do you agree with this list? Are there any other games that you think deserve a spot? Thanks for tuning in, guys. If you enjoy the Atari Jaguar and its incredible graphics, then make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more feel-good retro gaming. Also be sure to share your favorite memories in the comments below. Alright everybody, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out, and I'll see you on the next one. Due to popular demand, I'm back with a Part 2 follow-up of more games with the best graphics on the Atari Jaguar. Same as in Part 1, this list isn't meant to be considered as the best games necessarily on the system, but rather intends to highlight some of the great 90s vintage eye candy on the console. So whether you call it the Jaguar, Jaguar, or Jaguar, join me in this Retro Gaming Boss retrospective and take a trip down memory lane of more visually stunning games that showcase the visual capabilities of this console. Alright, so what's in a name? Let's keep it simple. I'm just gonna call it the Jag from here on out, okay? Before we dive into it, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is always here for a quick retro gaming break whenever you need it. I appreciate your support, since it's the only way YouTube will highlight my videos. Despite the Jag's relatively short original lifespan and limited game library, it boasted some pretty sharp visuals and leading-edge technology for its time, pushing the boundaries of both 2D and 3D graphics during a period when the gaming industry was evolving from the classic 16-bit systems to the newer and more capable 32 and 64-bit consoles. Back in part 1, we looked at the bare metal under the Jag's hood, which excelled in 2D graphics and expanded on what was possible with rendering 3D worlds. It's further worth noting that the Jag's GPU was one of the first on the market capable of generating a 24-bit true color palette of 16.8 million colors. This allowed for rich and vibrant images and is considered the standard for high-quality color in most digital media, even today. With 24-bit color depth, it could display a much wider range of colors, resulting in more accurate and realistic images. The increased precision of true color also enables smoother gradation between colors, reducing the appearance of banding and posterization in 2D images. In comparison, the 16-bit Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo were limited to just 512 and 32,000 colors respectively. The Jag's exponentially larger color palette far surpassed them both, and was capable of producing photorealistic 2D graphics. The only other console with a true color palette at that time was the 3DO, but let's also remember that system happened to cost nearly twice as much as the Jag at its release. The Jag also supported a higher screen resolution in its special VGA mode of up to 640 by 480 pixels, substantially higher than the 320 by 240 of the Genesis, or the even lower 256 by 224 on the Super Nintendo. The Jag's ability to display at a higher resolution was a great advantage in terms of overall image clarity and sharpness, but it's important to understand that not all games on the system were actually programmed to support it, due to the additional load it placed on the processor to render images at higher resolution. A final word on the hardware is the Jag's optional S-video cable that transmitted sharper and more vibrant images onto the screen compared to the older RGB composite connection used in earlier consoles. While the Jag default video output was the RGB Connect, S-video capability was common in higher-end TVs and monitors back in the 90s, and provided a superior picture quality and more vivid colors and sharper images for those who had one. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into the games. The following is meant to illustrate a variety of the graphical finesse seen on the Jag, with a mix of both 2D and 3D titles. Our first game is the F1-inspired 3D racer Checkered Flag. This game was released in 1994 by the prolific Jag developer Rebellion. Similar to the Sega arcade game Virtua Racing, it was a good showcase of the console's 3D polygon capabilities. It features lightning-fast action and a smooth frame rate that was quite impressive for its time. The tracks are designed with interesting details, sharp corners, and long straightaways that maintained a consistent visual flow. The game's polygonal graphics provided a sense of depth and realism that was advanced for home consoles of its era, even though the cars and environments appear blocky by modern standards. Checkered Flag also introduced a weather system, allowing players the choice to adjust the appearance of the track with rain or fog effects, providing variety and further enhancing the visual experience. Despite the technological limitations of the era, Checkered Flag used the Jag's hardware to create an immersive 3D racing experience, offering visual depth and smooth racing environment that set it apart from many other racing games in the market back at the time. For our second title, we have a 2D entry, so you just know we've got to talk about Kasumi Ninja. Love it or hate it, this game has somehow gained a bit of a cult following. Visually, it's clear this game is trying to capitalize on the popularity of Mortal Kombat, but I'll be the first to admit the gameplay wasn't even close to being in the same league. Despite its poor controls and stiff gameplay, it does offer up some really sharp backgrounds that fully utilize the true color features of the system and are combined with some gorgeous parallax scrolling, which adds a nice looking illusion of depth. The game even presented a 3D dungeon of sorts to make the character selection mechanic more interesting. The digitized sprites of the fighters definitely have that cheesy 90s look, with exaggerated moves and over-the-top animations. And of course there's lots of blood splattering everywhere, and some gory fatalities to finish things off. But let's be clear, Kasumi Ninja's background environments are where this one really shines. Here are some of my favorites.
Round one.
Next up is Skyhammer, another open-world 3D shooter, also developed by Rebellion. You take control of a combat helicopter in an environment that mirrors the gritty urban aesthetic of the movie Blade Runner. The game is visually stunning, with detailed texture-mapped environments. The weapon effects and explosions are pretty sweet too, adding to the chaos of the battles. The 3D visuals here are quite impressive for the Jag, and it pulls off the full 6 degrees of control in a visually engaging package. It's important to note that this title had been in development during the JAG's original lifespan, but for a number of reasons, it was not actually released until the year 2000, after Atari had abandoned the system. Nevertheless, this is one of the best 3D open-world shooters on the console, and definitely worth a closer look.
Entering friendly zone.
And number 4 is Battle Morph, the much improved sequel to the JAG's pack-in cartridge Cybermorph. This space shooter pulls you in with its mix of arcade-style combat and immersive visuals. This game was only one of a handful of JAG CD titles that were actually released. Its 3D graphics are a solid improvement over its predecessor. The game's crisp polygon graphics and fluid animation make it really feel like you're zipping across alien landscapes. The short draw distances in the first game are a bit less jarring here. The neon colors and Guro shading make this one a looker. The freedom of movement and open-world gameplay made this addition to the library one that really impressed JAG fans in the mid-90s. It even featured the ability to pilot your ship seamlessly from in-atmosphere to diving underwater with some creative visual effects while submerged. Let's check it out. In the number 5 slot, we have got Val d'Isère skiing and snowboarding. If you're into winter sports, this game is an exhilarating blast of fresh air. It boasts forward-scrolling 2.5D graphics that are fast-paced with tight controls. The snow-covered mountains appear crisp and stunning, with nice terrain details and a smooth frame rate as you hurtle down the slopes. While the game's focus is speed and arcade thrills, it doesn't actually offer that much depth, but definitely captures the feeling of shredding down the mountainside with impressive visuals in its day. The game engine does a great job with sprite scaling and the track movement, and is the first game that I can recall with the rotating plane of the track, moving not only on a downhill axis, but also uphill as you power your way over some ridges in each course.
Yeah! Yeah! Yeah!
Rounding out the batch for number 6, we've got Iron Soldier 2, the excellent follow-on effort that's got to be one of the most visually impressive titles on the Jag. The game was released on both cartridge and CD formats, with each version making substantial improvements to the overall visual presentation. This includes more detailed, complex environments and more texture-mapped polygon graphics that brought the world to life, making the combat even more satisfying. I've just gotta say, when you see those A-10s buzzing around doing their strafing runs against your mech, or watch an entire skyscraper blow up into thousands of pieces, it's pretty damn cool. Iron Soldier 2's improved frame rate and more responsive controls were also a step over the original. The destructible environment effects in particular are a real standout. Whether you're bringing down a building or blowing up vehicles, you just feel so powerful with even more pieces of shrapnel and chunks of debris raining down in the explosions. The action and open world environments are a prime example of peak gaming on the Jag. In my mind, this has got to be one of the best instances of how the system's power was truly harnessed, creating some amazing gameplay experiences. Now before we wrap things up, I want to provide an honorable mention and highlight one more title with great graphics, which is actually an unfinished game, but still a playable demo of Phase Zero. The game was sadly never released on the Jag during its original run, and is a three-dimensional blast-em-up played from a first-person perspective similar to Hover Strike. You step into a combat hovercraft skimming over a variety of destructible environments while bringing the fight to the enemies. Phase Zero's graphics were something really special since the developers used an innovative technique called height maps, which are similar to voxels or volumetric pixels that were popularized in the 1990s by the PC game Comanche. This method of rendering graphics allowed each landscape pixel to have its own elevation value to represent a specific height. The action here is intense, and when you blow apart enemy crafts, the explosion's transparency effects are pretty awesome looking. The demo itself was leaked online in the year 2000, and later in 2004, Songbird Studios re-released the demo on an actual Jag cartridges, complete with packaging mimicking the other officially licensed Jag releases. So kudos to Songbird Studios for making this available to Jag fans on the original hardware. So there you have it. While the Atari Jaguar's library may have been small relative to the competition, there's no doubt that some of its games packed a visual punch. Whether the detailed and colorful 2D worlds or the immersive 3D open-world experiences, these games showcase the Jaguar's true power, each in their own creative and unique ways. The very fact there's still a loyal Jag fan base around the world, with numerous homebrew games in independent development that continues to this day, is a true testament to the console's enduring legacy and place in gaming history. But that's just what I think. Which games do you think had the best graphics? Are there any others that deserve a spot? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. If you're new here, I'd like to welcome you to the channel and invite you to subscribe for more feel-good retro gaming content. Alright everyone, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out, reminding you to keep the games old school. I really appreciate you watching and all your support, and I'll see you on the next one. One last word, especially for those who aren't Jaguar fans, I have just one thing to say about how I truly feel about this great retro console.
But I still love technology, always and forever.
Were the graphics of the Atari Jaguar games any good at all? I've been asked that question so many times, especially in comparison to the other popular consoles that were available during the same period, for instance, the Sega Saturn. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge supporter of the Jaguar and have played almost all of the games on the system. So, to answer the question once and for all, join me in this part 3 of the Retro Gaming Boss Showcase of games with the best graphics on the Atari Jaguar. Each of the games that I'll highlight in this video took advantage of the console's hardware in unique ways, making them extraordinary examples of 90s gaming tech. Just as in the earlier parts 1 and 2 of my graphics showcase, I'm not claiming that the following titles are the system's best games. We'll leave that topic for another video. But they all demonstrate the power and flexibility of the console's graphics capability. Since I provided a rundown of the Jaguar's hardware capabilities in earlier videos, let's get right into the games. But before we dive in, I want to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is always here for a quick retro gaming break. I really appreciate your support since it's the only way that YouTube will highlight my videos, so please help me to grow. First up, we've got to talk about Missile Command 3D from 1995, a reimagining of the classic Missile Command arcade game from 1980. This title came out swinging on the Jaguar with its full 3D graphics and built upon the original's simple concept and turned it into a standout experience. I have to admit, when this was released, I was a bit skeptical. Before playing it, I thought to myself, man, it seems like Atari is really scraping the bottom of the barrel of their library. But fortunately, I put my ignorance aside and gave it a try, and wow, was I impressed. Far from the simple vector graphics of the arcade experience, the Jaguar really flexes its muscle in this one. In Missile Command 3D, you take control of anti-ballistic missile defenses set near the ground level. Looking up far into the atmosphere, your stomach drops as you see endless volleys of ICBMs screaming down toward you on their ballistic arcs. The sense of perspective and scale it gives is really impressive. The dynamic camera angles and lens flare effects put you front and center in the high-stakes battle to save the planet. The action really spikes your pulse as you blast away to defend the cities below, aiming your interceptors just right to lead the inbound missiles a bit to score a direct hit. The introduction of 3D graphics makes this an entirely fresh experience, including some mega boss battles at the end of some stages. After having played it quite a bit now, I actually have to say I think it's one of the Jaguar's best. Another interesting tidbit, the developer Virtuality had agreed to create a VR headset for Atari alongside their development of this title. But while the game was released during the Jaguar's original run, the much anticipated VR headset was ultimately cancelled, leaving Missile Command 3D as the only game that would have been compatible with the peripheral. Regardless, if you haven't played this one yet and are a fan of the console, you really owe it to yourself to give it a try. Next up is Atari Karts, an obvious Super Mario Kart clone, but with greatly improved graphical finesse and presentation. Released in 1995, Atari Karts was a vibrant showcase of the Jaguar's visual capabilities, with crisp environments, stunning backgrounds, and multiple layers of parallax scrolling. Yeah, I hear all those Nintendo fanboys saying, actually, it isn't really a 64-bit game, it's just a copy of Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo. Seriously? Maybe you need to get your eyes checked.
Are you out of your goddamn mind? Do you want to go to war, Malaki? Because we could go to war.
No. All kidding aside, I get tired of hearing stuff like this from people who've probably never even played Atari Karts. Maybe it's just too easy for nostalgia to somehow blind the objective difference between these games. For anyone who's curious, just take a few minutes to put the graphics in both games side by side you'll immediately spot the visual improvements on the Jaguar. Now, I'm not bashing the Super Nintendo or Super Mario Kart. I personally think they're both great. I'm just saying that the natural progression of technology leads to an improved graphics here. There's nothing wrong with that. So in my mind, Atari carts should actually be applauded for showcasing the excellent visuals that the Jaguar could crank out. Excellent! So to sum it up, this game's arcade-style controls, multiplayer racing, quirky characters, and gorgeous environments make it an absolute blast to play. In the number 3 spot, we have 05, a space shooter developed by Caspian Software and released exclusively for the Atari Jaguar in 1997. This game was one of the last licensed releases published for the Jaguar after Atari discontinued the console in 1996. Despite its late release, 05 really steps it up with polygon graphics, a slamming techno soundtrack, and intense action. However, its steep difficulty curve make it less accessible as a game, and kind of affected my overall enjoyment. Nevertheless, 05 features some of the most impressive visuals seen on the Jaguar, namely its particle effects, warp sequences, and a battle of attrition with a massive capital ship. The game's different play modes include first-person gunner missions and levels where you control the ship from a third-person point of view. But the real standout had to be the wicked hard trench run level, with the blistering pace and insane difficulty. The game really shows off the Jaguar's horsepower, even though it came out too late in the console's life to change its ultimate fate. And moving along to number 4, Towers 2 Enhanced Stargazer Edition is actually a remake of the original RPG title that was first released on the Jaguar back in 1995. The Enhanced Stargazer Edition was created by Songbird Productions and released in 2023, a full 28 years after the original. This new version brings much needed quality of life improvements and upgrades to the UI and graphics, but don't let its superficial resemblance to Wolfenstein 3D fool you. This game packs a huge amount of detail and complexity. From the variety of dungeons to the diverse characters, weapons, armor, and magic, it's a really solid first-person RPG experience that's become a bit of a collector's item given the rarity of the physical cartridges. Definitely worth a closer look if you can get your hands on a copy. The visuals are reminiscent of the excellent RPG Shining the Holy Ark on the Sega Saturn. One feature that really tapped into the Jaguar's power is its use of light sourcing, which helps improve the atmosphere in the dungeons. Some great texture work also makes this one a real gem. It's just awesome seeing developers, even today, working hard to keep the Jaguar's legacy alive with releases like this. So kudos to Songbird Productions. Keep up the excellent work.
Good evening.
Now real quick, if you're enjoying this content, I've linked a playlist in the description below that includes the Atari Jaguar Graphics Showcase Parts 1 and 2, along with all of my other retro gaming videos that you might enjoy. So why not check it out and stick around for a while. For number 5, we have Ultra Vortek, which is clearly one of the most visually unique fighting games on the Jaguar. Also released in 1995, it sports digitized characters, some pretty good fighting animations, and ultra-vivid backgrounds. This game really took advantage of the Jaguar's massive color palette and 2D capabilities to produce such shiny and beautiful graphics. Of course, it was a Mortal Kombat clone, and while the controls and gameplay left something to be desired, it did feature some creative fatalities, which were still a pretty novel thing back when it was released. Like we saw in Kasumi Ninja in the prior graphics showcase video, Ultra Vortek is all about its imaginative and detailed backgrounds. Even though they aren't the same photorealistic style like Kasumi Ninja's, they are more fantastical and sci-fi inspired, with bold and well-animated stages that really pop. And that creepy looking eye staring down at you from the top of the screen by the health meters, and that demonic sounding announcer voice made this one super distinctive. As a side note, a little appreciated fact is that Ultra Vortek was the only officially released game that was capable of supporting the Jaguar voice modem peripheral for online multiplayer action. It's just too bad that the modem was never released commercially by Atari, so we never got to experience that innovation at the time. So before we wrap up, you know I've got to add a couple of honorable mentions into the mix. The first is Hammer of the Gods by Phobos Games. This is an unfinished hack-and-slash title set in a stunning medieval environment. Despite still being a work in progress, from what I've seen so far, the visuals are grade A. Reminiscent of Sega's Golden Axe, this one looks to have some fun swordplay action with a hand-drawn art style that reminds me of graphic novels, and kinda has a cel-shaded animation look. Its massive sprites, vivid backgrounds, and multiple layers of parallax really impress. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this one gets completed soon, and would absolutely love to play it. And finally, I want to highlight the often overlooked graphics seen in the basketball game White Men Can't Jump. While its 2-on-2 Street Hoops gameplay wasn't as popular as the excellent NBA Jam arcade port, its graphics really tapped into the Jag's powerful ability for sprite scaling, giving it additional depth and an appealing 2.5D presentation.
Get off me! Chill out! Get off me, chump! Watch it! Ooh, hands on the rim!
So as we've seen, the Atari Jaguar wasn't just a console with powerful hardware and innovative games. It was a platform that broke through the boundaries of what was possible in both 2D and 3D gaming back in the mid-90s. But that's just what I think. What other Jaguar games have the best graphics? Do I need to make a part 4 of the showcase to include your favorites? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to hit that like button to help me out. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel, and I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe. And don't forget to check out parts 1 and 2 of the Jaguar Graphics Showcase on my channel. Alright everyone, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out, reminding you to keep your games old school, and to keep on supporting the timeless Atari Jaguar and all of its great games. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.